Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Bolton, the Analysis Days. This is going to be a freaking weird one, because it's so hard to judge a lot of the things that have happened this season. I think like we were on for like a kind of ploddingly good year, and I was happy with the progress, but sort of wondering like where we were going to go and whether it was just going to be a case of slowly but surely just trying to get slowly better players in each position. I don't think that's really changed, but then we found moving Kang back into the centre, and we're going to talk all about Kang, believe me, in this video. It's so much stuff to go over with that, so settle in. It's probably going to be quite a long one again, but I know you guys like this. And also let me know what you think about potentially the new time slot I've gone with for this video, so it's more in between the two episodes, so it doesn't spoil stuff so much, gives you more time to watch it, all that sort of jazz as well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Happy to move it back, of course. So yeah, the second half of the year, that just from around the Chelsea game, it was actually just after the Chelsea game that I came to that conclusion. And I'll be honest with you, it was mainly just because my assistant randomly decided to dump him back there one game. And I thought, you know what? See how he does with still getting him into the team, but I wanted to have Bala in there too. And we have just been lightning since then. Now, I know there was a Liverpool game. It happens. But that was our only defeat, literally, since we switched over to this. And there are going to be bad results from time to time, and what happened was Kang wasn't on the pitch for the full 90 minutes, basically. It really did cost us, this has to say. So, I mean, Kim, 34 goals, 7 assists, 24 in the league, 6 assists. The guy's been excellent this year again. He's just a consistent 20-goal-a-season Premier League striker, and I don't think I can really ask so much more from the guy. He's still only 23 years old, nearly 50 and 50 for South Korea as well. Obviously, he's wanted. It doesn't matter because he has no release clause. They're not getting him. They're not getting him. They're not getting him from my cold, dead hands. You can see this year, his best ever for me. Return for us over the full course of the year. He had 28 contributions, 27. This year, 30 goal contributions over the course of the year. Consistent with the assists, goals. He did get more man of the matches that first potential season, and maybe that could still be his like peak, but I still think that a full season of playing the way we're playing right now, I still think he can get to 30 goals next season. I think we may need him to, barring any injuries and whatnot. I love him to death. Mitar Nezev. He's a strange one. He found himself in the team quite a lot this season, and he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but average rating-wise, he has really not performed that well, and I'm very much looking forward to looking at the centre-back comparisons to see if maybe we've been overlooking someone who's put in really good numbers this year, or whether it is just a case that Nezev's the best we've kind of got right now, and I do wonder if maybe with this money that we've got this summer, the one position that perhaps could do with a big marquee signing, so to speak, to go alongside Demaran and Wilson would maybe be a third like world-class centre-back. Maybe I could even go in for that Koch guy that was at Ajax that was going to cost like £80 million. But at the end of the day, if it makes the difference, then I'd be tempted to go and do it anyway, even if it does cost us huge money, because we're at that point in the save now where I feel comfortable making those types of transfers, you know? So we'll have to see how Nezev's done, really. Davil, oh, so happy. So happy with his performances this year. I figured this might be the year that he kind of dropped off for us, but actually it's been the exact opposite of that. Had his best ever year. He's still only 22. His best ever year in a Bolton shirt now. What was that? Like 23 goal contributions in 39 games. It's dropped off a bit towards the end, I'll be honest, but 6 goals in the Champions League, 8 goals in the Premier League. Really pleased with that. And you can see it's definitely a step in the right direction. Like in his time with Bolton so far over the first 4 full seasons, it's hugely stepped in the right direction. I mean, he got 5 in his first half a season, then 3, then 11, then down to 7. But this year, 14 goal contributions in 27 appearances is extremely good. Definitely his best ever year for us. And where he really picked it up, you can see last year, he got 5 goals in total. This year, 14 in total. That's a huge step up. I mean, that's double what he's ever got in the previous year. So, very happy with Davor Christensen. I see no reason why he won't be able to start on the right for us next year. Nothing at all suggests that he wouldn't be right there. I love him. He just does things for us. Alejandro Mesa definitely got some game time this year. Very curious to see how he actually stacks up stats-wise, despite the lack of height, against some of the other guys in those positions. And maybe next year he could get more game time. I just don't know. Macania, what can I say? The man's a don. 29 goals conceded in 37 Premier League games. 15 clean sheets in there as well. The man is miserly. He's not going anywhere. He's one of the best goalkeepers I've ever had on Football Manager, and I don't even care about the fact that he's only 3.5 star rated at this point. The guy is a god. Nicky Murray. I've been surprisingly okay with Nicky Murray's performances this year. 6 goals, 3 assists. He's never going to get good ratings. I just think that position in our squad just doesn't really do that. But you'll see that it is definitely a step back, potentially, from last year, where he contributed to 10 goals. This year, only 5 overall. Last year, it was 12 overall. This year, it's 9 overall. So it's not been the best season for Nicky Murray, I have to say. Although his average rating, interestingly, has improved. So there's definitely something going on there. But his overall contribution has dropped slightly. So maybe that's been picked up through other players. I don't know. I still like him a lot, though. Demaran, what a man. As always, 2 goals in the Champions League, 1 in the Premier League. Pretty solid job, but I still want to make sure that he's performing as well as I think he is. That's the key for me. We got to do the big stats check. Is going to be very, very important to figure out exactly where he lines up. Petrovic, now obviously, he's only just come into the team. So he's got 1 goal in the Premier League, but only 1 start. Played a few games in the Champions League, although I suspect that some of those may have been for Red Star, so we have to be careful with that. How many goals did he actually score for us in total? Yeah, 1. So those goals were actually for Red Star rather than us. So he only has 1 goal for us, but he has only started 1 game. So really harsh to judge him based on that anytime soon. Still trying to get rid of the player trait, though. I think he's had a solid year. I've been pleased with his output. 1 goal, 10 assists. It's definitely what I hoped from him being put in the team. Like, he's definitely performed better than he did the previous year. But it's a question of how he's actually stacked up. That's what I really want to see. Pombo, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to get him working on that same kind of thing as every other player in this team. But it's just he's a good player that I can't seem to just fit in at the moment, quite simply. Rodriguez has sort of fallen by the wayside this season, which is kind of a shame because I think the guy actually might be moving into potential sort of backup left-back spot next year in place of Manny Farmer, because he is actually developing really, really nicely. He's just not had a chance. And I think maybe next year, depending on the stats, although there's not a lot to go on, we'll have to do our best. I'll be interested to see. Tim Stars has still played a surprising amount, but really does struggle, despite him having the tries killer balls. I wonder if these, or the tries long-range passes thing, is... You wouldn't think that it would do, but he just doesn't seem to perform the same way Kang does, even in the same role, interestingly. Victor Bobson still played a decent amount of games this year. He doesn't have the tries killer through balls thing. The problem is because he's older, I think it'd be a difficult one to even get him to learn that. As you can see, he's the highest paid player at the club as a result of actually earning a Brazil cap, the bastard. So that did cost us a fair amount of money, but it's Victor Bobson. He's been all right for us, to be fair. Kyle Wilson, love him. Just absolutely outrageous. 7 goals and 6 assists this season for Kyle Wilson. This is a breakout year for the lad. Like, when you look at his appearances for us so far over the 3 seasons he's been at the club, first year, 1 goal, no assists. Last year, 6 goals, no assists. This year, 7 goals and 6 assists over 48 appearances for us. And he's back next year. Chelsea just happy to let us have a player that's literally causing us to finish above them in the league. That, for me, is a little bit unrealistic, to be honest, but I guess that's Chelsea for you in this particular case. Chukwudi Bala, really happy. 12 goals and 6 assists. He has missed some game time through injury, of course, but I want to see how he stacks up to last year more than anything. So you can see, it's, albeit that was over a smaller sample size, but his average rating's solid. He's provided double the number of assists, and he, 8 contributions that time, 12 this time, stepping things up slowly but surely. I think there was a spell where I thought he might progress a bit more. But, overall, 12 goals as well. He did get 4 in the Champions League for us, a couple of assists in there to go as well. Still happy with the direction that he's moving in, though. Really, really like him in that role instead of Kang, because Kang played a lot in that position earlier in the season and just did not score goals. It took Kang until the second half of the year to remind everybody that he is actually a god. Juan Candela, incredibly, after the massive move, only ended up playing 10 times for us this year and was absolute shite. I mean, unmitigated garbage from Juan Candela this year. Easily his worst ever season in a Bolton shirt. Now, obviously, played a lot less games. That's to be fair. But look, 3 goals, 4 assists that one year. 1 goal, 7 assists that year. 4 goals, 3 assists that year. 3 goals, 3 assists that year. And then none and none. Just nothing. Not a dicky bird. And it wasn't like he started 10 times. It wasn't like he was coming off the bench. He has just been awful. And yeah, not great. Manny Farmer. So what I'd say about Manny Farmer is 2 goals and 3 assists, despite not actually playing that much, is kind of interesting, in fairness. When you look, ironically, had one of his better seasons for us, surprisingly. I really am interested to see how he stacks up next to Hung when we do a full comparison. Garces has actually found himself a lot less game time this year, and I am a bit concerned that I might have actually hampered him slightly. I want to see how he's done compared to the others, pure stats-based, because we may have to make some decisions about him next year. Geraldo, first season at the club, 15 assists in 40, ain't actually that bad, and I do believe if we can get him that trait of tries killer balls, I don't know, I think that could be the making of him. But overall, for 20 million quid, what on earth? Oh, yeah, it's because of the weird crossover point. I'm still okay with the fact that he's got 10 assists. He's just put in some poor performances often. And I wonder if that could be the difference, is that getting him that PPM could just really open up a world for him. I'm really hoping so, because I do really like him, and I think he's had an excellent year still. Hassan Hussein, obviously he's been on loan, so that's something we're going to have to look at potentially over the summer as to what we really do with him, because he only really played... I mean, how did he even play through the middle at all? 10 times through the middle, scored 3 goals. Out wide, scored 3 goals. So he did play better through the middle, in fairness. But how often would he really actually play there is the question, I suppose. Particularly when you look at, we've got Petrovic now, we've got Leonardo Hernandez. We didn't have Petrovic at the time, and I really signed Hussein to be a backup there. So one of the issues I might look at in the summer is potentially another right-wing option, just so we've got a bit more with Christensen out there, just to see if we can make that work as well. That's sort of an area where I'm interested in. Ivanov? What I'd say about Veselin Ivanov, and this is really quite important to note, he's got 7 goals and 5 assists this season, despite only starting 7 games. The guy is actually very good, and despite that horrible injury, has really turned up this year. Like, he's not putting up... His numbers of over 19 matches are not far off the numbers he was putting up when he was playing nearly a full season for us. 13 goal contributions in 29, 11 in 36. This year, 10 in just 19 games. That's actually very impressive for Veselin, particularly as he only started 6 of those games. The guy is a super sub and clearly has a lot of right to be. And to be fair, last season as well, only playing 9 games because of the injury, still churned out some serious performances. I just think there's something about Veselin Ivanov that I really, really like. And now the man, Kang. Now, initially, it may not look great in terms of his pure numbers. 5 goals, 10 assists. I think that's probably going to be one of his worst records, in fact, for us, as you will see here. I mean, that's very evident when you look at his other one, but look at this. He is just contributing so much more to games now, and I do think that him playing deeper, he's not going to get as many goals or assists, because that's not really his game time now, but he just does things. He just does things, and I'm curious to see what he can do next year sat in that role. I do wonder if it is... I think for me, it has to be the tries killer balls often one. Because everything else, I mean, dictates tempo might be a factor in it as well, potentially. But then we're just going to have to see. Regan Booty also had dictates tempo. So that is interesting to note, that perhaps that could be a factor as well. But I just love him, and I'm curious to see what he can do next year, playing in that deeper role, because I have adored his work this year. I mean, he's barely... I think he underperformed in terms of the goals he scored in the league, in fairness. So overall, obviously, we're fairly low on possession. We know that that's always going to be the case. Headers 1, not super important stuff, these ones, I don't suppose. But headers 1 ratio, though, the highest. Very, very important to have that one. Yellow cards... We're not winning, we're not making too many fouls, which is useful. I think we have had a red card or 2. Yeah, I think there was 1. I think it was the Christensen one really early this year. Form is irrelevant. Goals per game, obviously we know all about that. Goals for, 95. I mean, with the third highest scorers in the league, joint with Manchester City. So right where we should be, really. Expected goals per game. Oh, wait, no. Goals per game, 4th. So yeah, we actually... So United just overperformed massively their XG this season. We were sort of about right, really. I mean, how many goals did we score? 72. Actually, no, we were well above it ourselves as well. But I guess you know how that kind of works with us. We were always sort of around about that when it comes to that sort of situation. Arsenal with the 8 penalties taken, 7 of which have been scored. Pretty good. Cross completion at 23 is exciting. That's what I like to see. Goals from corners, 8. Right up there. Excellent news. Goals from direct free kicks, we scored 1, which is not bad at all. Goals from indirect free kicks, 6. Top of the league. Perfect. This will be pretty low on that one. We know that. Click at chances created, ignore that, completely meaningless these days. This stat is so broken, it's unbelievable. It counts like really low quality headers, sadly, as clear cut chances. I think they've claimed to have fixed that, but it doesn't look like it to me. Conversion rate, right up there, which is exactly what we want to see. Shots on target ratio, a little bit low, but we'll see who that's because of. Shots per game, we don't take that many shots, really. Dribbles made, interesting. So it's around about the same as it was last year, if I'm honest. But I suppose it's because we abandoned that idea that I was really looking at. About being more run at defence, because it didn't really work for us. Conceded, though, us and Man United, 29 goals each. I think that's still better than last year. We only slightly, what I'd say. But defensively, pretty solid. Although, much, much better than you'd expect. I actually think we've overperformed defensively this season too, so it's a good sign. Well, sort of. But again, I think it comes down to, like I said, we concede a lot of shots from... areas where we've got a lot of players in the way and they're very unlikely to score them, but we do seem to concede a lot of them, and as a result, it does seem to skew the XG stats sometimes against us. 2 corner goals, which is really nice. Or rather, only 2 conceded. None from direct free kicks, which is good. Indirect free kicks, still an absolute hassle. And that's not even including, I don't think, the breakdown of indirect free kicks, because that's a real goldmine for other teams against us, sadly. Liverpool do get the most clean sheets, which is interesting, considering they actually conceded more goals than both of us, but they, just did it over a weirder period of time, it would seem. Tackles 1 ratio, could do being a bit better on that one. Blocks, obviously, we're pretty high on that, because the way we play, generally speaking. Penalties conceded, wow, none for Spurs, United and Watford. I mean, that's something we could cut out. 9 penalties conceded this year. That's cost us probably like 9 goals, although more like 7. I think McCann saved a couple. That alone could have accounted for a lot of the sort of sways there, which is a shame. Average attendance at 38,000. Lovely old job. Average attendance. Did we actually... Oh, we did at least have some sellouts. We had 7 sellouts this season, which is more than we were getting in a smaller stadium, because reasons. So what's up with this? Because that was the capacity of the stadium. But then it doesn't make any sense to me that we wouldn't be able to... I don't know. Weird. Lowest attendance, obviously, we were, 28,000. Wow, that's quite low, actually, for a ground so large. Net transfer spend was fairly high. Salary per annum, though, we're still only the 11th highest spenders in the league. It's a massive jump up, for sure, compared to where we were last time. But still, we're nowhere in the... We've spent still way less than half of all these other teams up there. Watford are spending a lot of money as well, by the way. Birmingham City, I mean, no wonder they went down, although they have certainly improved their financial situation tremendously. Player details, though. This is where things start to get fascinating. I think it's unlikely we're going to be able to find anyone that's worth signing from here, because I am going to be just doing a bit more of a deep dive this summer, because it's going to be more laser focused again, like it has been recently, but it's still interesting. I fully believe that Kang plays the full season in that role, and he's dominating this and probably getting like 10 or 12 Man of the Match awards. He looks like he's in contention for the Man of the Match awards in literally every game he plays. It's just ridiculous. And he'll probably be on this chart as well. In fact, he already is, to give you an idea. So a full season in this position, and I firmly believe that he wins Player of the Year next year, if he can stay fit. That more than anything else. And I assume not a single player on there. That is a very strong sign. Like, our left back is not losing anywhere near as much possession as he was, which is a very good step, because that's a real plug that we needed to fix. Di Lorenzo, again, 27 goals this year. The guy is an absolute monster. I mean, you've seen him before, but I'll show you him again. He's not even wanted by other clubs. They just simply cannot afford him. I don't think there's anyone in the world that could probably afford to get this guy off of Brighton right now, which is interesting. If they could put a team around him, he would be godlike. When you look at his 2 seasons for them, 19 and 27. He's only getting better. It's scary. If Brighton could actually... And it only cost them £37 million. I do regret maybe not signing him, but at the same time, Kimmy is the man. The difference is that I just wonder, with that height as well, maybe he could have been the guy for us, but... I mean, you can only imagine what he would cost. I mean, there's just no interest at all in joining us, despite us being in the Champions League. Oh, what a player he is. He's got to be Ballon d'Or material one day, surely, you feel like. I feel like the looking forward is going to be interesting with him. Interesting that Manchester United actually have their Israeli striker with 10 finishing was up there as well. Shows that finishing isn't even the bill. He's not even got great mental attributes. Incredible, really. Started at Atletico, and here he is. That's fascinating that he's managed to score that many goals, despite really... not even having that good attributes. Expected goals, Kimmy, I mean, that's Di Lorenzo has massively overperformed this year. So this is what I mean. Kim is still probably one of the best strikers in the league and has got into some good positions this year. And that's a good sign for me. I'm really, really pleased with that. Just quite simply. Di Lorenzo does seem to shoot an awful lot, whereas Kim, look at that. Like, he only scored 3 less goals, and yet he took like 40 less shots. Very, very important there. Less shots on target as well, but he's always very, very clinical. His shots on target percentage is usually extremely good. 56%. It's a little bit lower than last year, I think, but still bloody excellent. Shots on target per 90 minutes. Kimmy won't even be on this, I don't suppose, because he's ruthless when he gets his chances. What about penalties? 3 out of 4. Not too bad. Don't know who took our other penalties then. Assists per 90 minutes. Obviously, Anthony's all over that, but Geraldo, not far off, to be fair. Key passes. I mean, Kang. He would be... miles away. I reckon he plays a full season, like, again, with this new style. He's over 200. Well, comfortably over 200. It's incredible. Most chances... albeit, you know, kind of irrelevant, but still, already at the top of that, which is insane. Just actually ridiculous. Mesa with some good pass completion too, so that's worth noting to see him so high up on that one. So definitely something to pay attention to when we look at things a bit more. Appearances-wise, tackles 1. 32-year-old James Justin of Bristol City. Interesting to see him up there. Tackles 1 ratio. Geraldo, not bad. It's going about a bit in that midfield. Oliver Strevitt of Wolves is flying in with tackles left and right, although he's a central midfielder with, 17 tackling. And although his aggression is a little bit low, the guy has some excellent mental attributes. But again, these players are well out of our price range, sadly. I mean, even though our price range is very large, I just don't like spending huge money on people unless they're Matty Farmer. Lol. Right, mistakes into a goal. Hopefully we don't have anyone on here at all. It seems unlikely that we would do it. Jesus, Kirosh there for Newcastle with 4 is quite a lot. Key tackles. No one on there for us at all, actually. Key headers. Usually we've got, Kyle Wilson, Demaran's on there too. Notably, the other guys are not. So, but then, they would have played less. It's basically us just rotating those 2 around most of the time. So, all in all, pleasing. But now comes the real thing that I'm interested in, is where we kind of decide what we need to do next year. And what I'm looking at right now is kind of the idea that a world-class, I say world-class, as best as we can afford, centre-back might be the difference for us this season going forward. But we'll have to see. I think that might be the one part of our team that perhaps, unless we could find an inverted wing back that is absolutely world-class themselves, it's unlikely that we'll find that player. But I'll certainly keep that in mind, just in case. But for now, let's go check out the actual attribute stats. Stats this time. So, left-sided defenders, we're really comparing Hung, Farmer, and Rodriguez here. This is the key thing for me. So you can see that Rodriguez is basically in the battle here for as far as interceptions goes, because what I'm really interested in is their creative output. And that's not too bad. Tackles-1 ratio, albeit, we've got to take this into account. It's a small sample size. It's solid. Tackles per game, again, solid in there with Manny Farmer. For the most part, although you can see that we actually concede less with Manny Farmer in there. The guy's done some stuff there. Headers per 90 minutes. Hung is definitely the man, for sure. I mean, that is very interesting to me. The 25% cross completion from Farmer is surprisingly high compared to the others, and that does worry me. But assists-wise, Hung is definitely still producing more, so that's definitely worth noting. Farmer with more key passes. So Farmer's great with the key passes and the crosses, but the chance creation, interesting, is a little bit lower, although it's hard to know what that actually means anymore. Dribbles per game, Manny Farmer slightly above it. They're really close, quite simply. I mean, that is literally it. Hung has drastically underperformed his XG. I would have expected him to have scored 3 goals this season, really, whereas Farmer's overperformed his somewhat. And he does hit the target a lot more, which probably helps. Why is his finishing? I'm just kind of interested now. Hung's finishing is 7 and composure of 11, whereas Farmer's finishing is 5 with a composure of 12. So maybe it's just a bad season. I don't know. What I would say, though, is I don't think Farmer has actually been that bad this year when he's been forced into the team. And there's certainly nothing here that makes me think that Rodriguez, despite his attributes, is... I mean, maybe he just needs more game time. The key thing for me, though, is that we've got 3 players that I'm actually pretty comfortable with in that position. I still think Hung is the main man, and we're rotating around Farmer and Rodriguez, but I think next year, Rodriguez does need a bit more game time to sort of see a bit more out of him. Just to... because it's so hard to judge him based on 5 starts and 2 substitute appearances. It's just not enough for me. Although I have seen a few things out there that suggest that he might still be capable of joining these guys. It just is not there yet. We're really comparing Murray to Candela, but this should really be... I mean, we can actually look at Quinana in here as well, if I'm honest. But it's so damn obvious, the situation here. So Quinana does make a few decent interceptions. Candela definitely failing behind Nicky Murray. Tackles-1 ratio, again, pretty solid. Candela's winning some tackles, so I'll give him that. A few less than Nicky Murray, in fairness. But, I mean, look, Murray's dominant on that one. Headers 1, Quinana does win a few headers. Fair play to him. I'm almost more looking at Quinana versus Juan Candela at this point. Assists per 90 minutes. Candela has none of those. Quinana definitely has an assist, which is probably part of the reason he's so high on that. Cross completion is higher than Murray and way, way higher than Candela. Chances created is a little bit higher. Key passes per 90 minutes is a little bit higher. It's certainly interesting. We score a bit more, but we do win less points with him in the team. Murray's basically got bang on the number of goals you'd expect him to have this year. Candela's basically not got in positions to score goals, I suppose. I mean, Murray is obviously the guy. Candela has been a waste of space this season and a massive wasted signing, but I feel like if we didn't sign him, we'd be worried. So it is what it is. I still would like to look for a perfect inverted wingback this summer. But I feel like the search for that player is probably going to be pretty futile at the end of the day because they just don't seem to exist, sadly. Not without immense amounts of retraining, which is essentially what we've had to do from time to time. And unless someone just suddenly appears out of nowhere that I've never noticed before, which is very unlikely, that would either mean they'd be very young or they were just previously out of our price range, maybe. Because there is a couple of players who I'd maybe look at, but I don't know if it would make that much difference investing that much money in the spot this year. Because when you look at Nicky Murray, attribute-wise, he's actually pretty bloody good. For an inverted wingback on attack, like he ticks, other than his marking, he ticks a lot of the bloody boxes very, very comfortably. And I just think that perhaps it's just a case of this role in this system will not achieve good average ratings. But he's still contributed goals, and that's kind of what makes a difference for me. So I'd be happy to line up with the same wingbacks in general next summer and next season if I had to, you know? But now this is where things get very, very interesting. It's centre-backs. Massive time now. So Wilson, Demaran, Nezev, Garces, Mesa, not Rodriguez, though he has actually, and also what I would say about Rodriguez, and I think this is quite important, is that he actually played centre-back nearly as much as he played wing-back because of rotation this season. So really, it's hard to say. So we'll obviously ignore him from this one, but this is going to be a fascinating step in to potentially, you'd expect Wilson and Demaran to dominate. It's who comes third, or if there is some changes to that potentially. So Mesa, interceptions per 90 minutes is second highest. Nezev's been appalling for that, and Garces hasn't been much better either. Mesa, right on the ball, and they've all had like 1,500 to 2,000 minutes each minimum. So that's fine. Tackles per game, Demaran's not made that many, whereas Mesa and Garces right in there. Nezev, again, really, really low. Tackles-1 ratio, really, really low. Garces and Mesa, both solid. I'm regretting already Nezev having as much minutes as he has. Team conceded per 90 minutes, the highest in the team. These two obviously have the best. We know that. That's really an important stat here. But Garces is much, much better than Nezev. Mesa's sort of on the same kind of level, in fairness to him. Now, he obviously does lack the aerial threat. And Nezev is very good in the air. Take nothing away, but there's so much other stuff wrong that makes me think that maybe that's not the best. I don't know. He has to win a bit more than that, to be fair. Key passes is not super important, but you can see Mesa's still solid in there. Nezev with none at all. Does have an assist, though. Team goals per 90 minutes. Mesa's the best. Again, Nezev not too bad, actually, in fairness to him, but has the lowest PPG of any player in the team. His XG, like, Garces has got a much higher one despite playing less minutes than him, which is, he hasn't actually scored, albeit. And Mesa actually has 2 goals to his name this season as well. Hits the target way, way more as well. Wilson, by the way, 7. I mean, honestly, Demirhan could have had more. Our centre-backs have got an insane amount of chances this season. I think that Mitar Nezev needs to come out for next season. I think that either Garces or Mesa is the man for the job next season, because Nezev has not done enough there to make me think that he needs to be starting in between those two. The average rating is one thing. For a start, he has the lowest average rating, but that's not the be-all and end-all. It's more to do with the numbers he's putting up. We had this a couple of years ago where we didn't realise that Garces was performing a lot better than we thought he was, and now might be a situation again with Garces and potentially Carlos Alejandro Mesa, who, despite his lack of aerial prowess, which is very evident, as you can see, with the low amount of headers, 1 per 90 minutes, but he's making up for that in a lot of other areas with his tackles-won ratio is absolutely superb at 92%. He has a really nice PPG when he's in the team, which is right in line with all the others, as is Garces. My conclusion here is a simple one, that Nezev has just slipped to 5th choice centre-back. Literally, in my head, he's just slipped to 5th choice in one smooth motion. Now, if I was to find another stonkingly good centre-back, like a 4-star kind of centre-back that can go in right alongside Wilson and Demirhan, then I'm still tempted, to be honest, because I feel like those two are nailed on for the spot. And I think what it really comes down to is this. Although Garces isn't too far off, these are the things that matter the most to me, just the sheer lack of goals conceded when they're in the team. And if we could get a trio of 3 guys that are like that, then surely they should be greater than the sum of their parts, potentially, and could make a massive difference to us long term. So I think that's my main task, potentially. If I can, because again, I'm really struggling to find places to put signings here, that would be the one area where I would happily dump 60, 70 million pounds, if it's the right player. But it does have to be the right player. Is that guy still at Ajax? So for some reason, I was thinking of Jos Kok, and that's the wrong guy, because firstly, he's not even a centre-back. Here he is, Ezra Kok. Turns out there was 2 different Koks in the Dutch league, and I was mistaken about him. You could see why I'd be interested in him. He has an £89 million release clause, though. But 15 heading, 15 marking, 15 tackling, 11 aggression. That's the one downside for me. Bravery is extraordinarily good. Positioning is extremely good. Obviously, we'll be playing him as a central defender, so we'll just sort of see. Composure's not fantastic. Jumping reach is incredible. Balance is incredible. He's fast. He's 6'2". He is just astonishingly good. And I feel like he might be the difference between us just having that little extra stability. I don't know. I honestly just don't know. But I would honestly be tempted to go for someone like Ezra Kok to make that little... The only thing about him that I'm even vaguely on the fence about, to be honest, is that aggression. And it is only a secondary factor. If you look at his key attributes for the role, he's 15 and above in every single one of them. And has some really nice supplementary stuff as well. And he would cost £89 million, though. I mean, would he even join us at this point? Extremely interested. Yeah. I mean, look at that. Let's just go to stat. Oh, yeah, so that's that. Eredivisie average. Look at this. The only thing he lacks is the clearances per 90 minutes. He is just godly compared to everyone else in the Eredivisie. Now, it's the Eredivisie, of course, but I don't know. Every now and then, I just get a little tickle to try and make an absolutely mental signing, and I wonder if he could be the guy. Relishes big matches, consistent performer. Says very brave, which, of course he is. It's his aggression. And maybe he doesn't need amazing aggression because it's made up for elsewhere. I don't know. I'm tempted, to be honest, but we'll have to see what we come to the conclusions that we come to later. Because I think if there's any position that I could plow a load of money into, this might be it. Midfielders. Now, obviously, this encompasses, because of the way that it splits them up, our centre midfielders as well as our attacking midfielders. So we have to kind of just accept that they're both going to be featured in here. But we're really looking at sort of stars upwards, and you can ignore Garces from here. These guys haven't played enough for me to really consider that. I did consider the other guys with these kind of numbers just because I needed to, but we've had enough performers elsewhere that I don't actually have to pay that much attention to him so far. So, interceptions, obviously, you'd want from... that's interesting. Bala, look at that. 2.36. Really, really strong. when you consider how high up he's actually playing. That's a fascinating number that might explain why he does so well there. Tackles won as well at 70. That ain't bad either, considering where he's played. Obviously, it's better than Kang, which is the main factor, really, for me in that point. Tackles per 90 minutes. Illich, obviously, not. Bobson, the guy does get a tackle in. That's what I'd say about Bobson. You can see that him compared to Geraldo is definitely different. And Kang just isn't going to make tackles at all. Bobson is a tackling machine. What is his tackling? It's really high, isn't it? That's only 13. I suppose originally the plan with Bobson was to play him as an inverted wingback, so I can sort of understand maybe why he's got such good tackling in that then. Wow, Murray's really good. Bala at 0.84, Geraldo at 0.84, Kang at 0.86. That midfield trio of Bala, Geraldo, and Kang is stupidly good. You can see how much it drops off the moment you start to... Why is that not above... Okay, weird. What is maths? What is maths, after all? You can see how much it drops off and how quickly. These three are the linchpin of our midfield. Geraldo, Kang, and Bala. If Geraldo gets the right PPM, I think he takes his own performances to another level, but that is an interesting defensive setup. And it's nice to see that Murray as well has a similar kind of one. I guess they would have played a lot, which makes sense that they would have all sort of fallen in line, but it's definitely worth paying attention to as well. Bala's done well in the air for us as well, which is really, really nice to see. Assist per 90 minutes, Geraldo at 4.1, Kang at 0.36, Giorne not too bad either, albeit only over 1. And Bala, he's not big assister anyway, but still, he still gets one every 5 games, so I'll take that. Cross completion, not super important. It's the key passes. This is what matters. Look at this. Kang, 5.22. Nobody even, like, he's played in 2 different positions this year, and no one can even come close to touching him on key passes. No one can even get, like, half the number of key passes he does in a game. I don't understand how he's able to be so good, but he is, and it's just filthy. It's genuinely crazy how good he is when he plays in either of those 2 positions. Let me just do a quick little look at his actual performances this year. So as an attacking mid, 3 goals, 4 assists. Sitting a bit deeper, albeit over less games, 2 goals and 6 assists. The guy does things. And I'm so interested to see where he does, how good he could be over a full year of playing like that. When you just look at his form over the last sort of few matches. So there was the Chelsea 4-1 here. This is where it changed. This was the first game I played him in that role against West Brom. Racked up 9 key passes, albeit didn't contribute a goal, but regardless. Then against Spurs, only 1 key pass, but he got an assist. Next game, 3 key passes against Liverpool, solid 7.1. Next game, only 2 against Barcelona, bam, 2 assists and a goal in that match, though. He was contributing mad, albeit his goal, as you can see, was very low XG. Next game, though, against Aston Villa, still a solid performance, 5 key passes. Brighton, 2 assists and a goal. 13 key passes in this game. Incredible. Bristol City, 7 key passes. Really, really solid again. Paris Saint-Germain, 10 key passes in that match for an 8.4 and an assist onto his name as well. Next game, only 6.7, only grabbed himself 2 key passes in that game. Bam, back for it the next game against West Ham with 9. When they give him room, he just does things, and albeit that was playing slightly further forward, I did move him around in that game. Even against City here, like 2 key passes. Still an okay game, but not his best for sure. Then he comes off against Liverpool. We know what happened there. Second leg, though, was able to be a little bit better, started to get some more key passes, and he finished the season relatively okay with 4 there against Everton and 4 there away at Arsenal. He only played like 3/4 of the game against them as well. So I feel like if he plays like this the whole of next year, there's an absolute... I'm so excited. But I'm happy to start... I'd be completely fine with starting next year with Kang, Bala, and Geraldo. They are, for me, next level, those 3. And more than happy to start next year with those 3 as our midfield. Now, obviously, we have to look beyond that, which is why I've got the players underneath them already working on other PPMs to potentially add to their game. And we certainly have options in there. When you look at the potential, Estevez, Pombo, Conroy, Gilney, Queiroz, Illich. There's so many players in this area of the team that we've got so much depth, it's absolutely outrageous. Now, obviously, they can't do the same job, but still, I feel like only having one of them out at any one time could be fine. It's just if we got a raft of injuries to the key guys. But then, who do we sign? There is only one guy I would potentially want to sign that maybe could add to that, and I'll show you him now as well. This is Ramon. He has a release clause of 13 million, I think it is? Yeah, 13.5 million from Flamengo. He's just another of these players, but he doesn't have the killer balls trait. That's the one downside. 2-footed, though, I'd be tempted, frankly. But you can see again that he's just astonishingly good for both positions, really, minus the tackling, of course. So maybe should the opportunity come up to bring in a player like Ramon, I might potentially do that as well. But you can see why I'd be tempted to not do that and put that money elsewhere, given how good that midfield is. And I honestly don't know if he would be any better than what we already have. And he lacks that. If he had the tries kill a ball thing, I'd be very interested. But he does have dictates tempo. So, I don't know. maybe that could be the key. But he wouldn't have the other one. So I just don't know. Maybe I'd do it just for the money that he would cost, which would be so small. But it would depend on how the deal with Ezra Koch potentially could go. So on the right side of the attacking midfield, it's really been Christensen and Hussein that have played there this year. So I want to see how they match up. Christensen better tackling. Just barely, albeit. Much better defensive stuff, though, with Christensen in the team. That's actually ridiculous. He, I think, has the best team conceded per 90 minutes of any player in the team, although I will look right towards the end. I was about to say if you remind me, but then, like, what are you going to do? Better in the air than Hussein as well. Hussein is not super short, though, is he? Oh, yes, he is. What am I talking about? I don't know who I was comparing him to in my head then. I think it was Barla as it goes. Assist per 90 minutes, better than Barla. Cross completion, phenomenal. 25% is extremely good. Key passes. Interestingly, the second best in the team, and you can see the massive difference with that, is Davor picks passes as well as crosses. He's a really important... He almost plays like a wide playmaker from time to time, where he's not just crossing the ball in, he's picking pinpoint accurate passes 3 times a game too, which is extraordinary. I wonder if that's improved since the changes we made to the tactic as well. So there's the Man United game. We had 5 in that one. 1 against Chelsea, 7 against Barca. He fades in and out of games. He goes for a spell where there's not a lot, but then he'll have another game where he'll rack up like 7 like that, where it just pulls the number right up, I suppose. So that's an element of it. Decent dribbler, obviously. Not as good as the others, because he's just not got that sort of speed. But team goals per 90 minutes, he's right up there. Although Hussein's slightly higher. PPG, slightly higher, but that's extraordinarily good. 2.33 points per game when he's in our team. He is crucial to the way we play. And really, really solid as far as his XG goes as well. Doubled it, basically. Barla, I'd argue, I'm surprised, given that Barla didn't have more goals this year, in fairness. So, yeah, I mean, that's the comparison of the midfield. Let's just quickly do the strikers as well, because really we're just looking at Kim and see how the others have even stacked up relating to him. And it's just, there's going to be no real competition between them at this point. What stuff really matters? This isn't that important. Assist per 90 minutes, even of, particularly as he plays mostly out wide. That makes a lot of sense. Kim and Hussein, though, tied, even though Kim plays through the middle. He's also got 22% cross completion, which is extremely good. Key passes is right in the mix with all the others as well. Although Hernandez, not too bad. Everyone's sort of above the same level. Dribbles per 90 minutes. Kim's actually surprisingly low. Bogdan hasn't played enough for me to really count that. I'd be surprised if it was genuinely as high as that. Although his dribbling is 16. So, I don't know, maybe there is something there. If we can get rid of that PPM on him, I think he'd be absolutely ruthless next season. But we'll have to see. Team goals per 90 minutes. Kim, ironically, actually the lowest, but then he has played 48 times this year. Does have one of the higher PPGs at the very least. Petrovic actually has the highest, but it's a good sign, even of slightly dipping off of that one. Goal scoring, obviously 34 in total for Kim this year is incredible. 26 XG. Ivanov's right on the money. Hernandez scored way more goals than he should have done this season, to be fair. Hussein, again, similar kind of story, but Kim's right on the money for me. 46% shot on target. Bogdan Petrovic, though, is 71% on target. Now, albeit over a smaller sample size. He is shooting about the same amount as Kim too, which is a nice sign. I feel like there's a player in there that could actually be better than Kim. He's just not there yet, and until he gets rid of that PPM and starts playing more consistently. So I think lots of cup starts next year for Bogdan Petrovic for sure, and potentially if there's an easy Champions League game where it's wrapped up, starting Petrovic more to give Kim room to rest out. Don't need to pad Kimmy's numbers, just need to get him those games and get Petrovic into the team a little bit more, because I've always wanted a deputy that I felt could handle it. And honestly, I think Hernandez probably could do a job for us now, but Petrovic is here, and I just feel like I want to give him that opportunity to be that man for us. It's only time will tell. I would say he's young, but he's not really any young. He's the same age as Hernandez, and he's no real, not that much younger than Kim. He's only 2 years on him, just played a lot less. So that's sort of my conclusions on that one. What was I going to look up? I literally have forgotten the very thing I was about to do. Something to do with our midfielders, and I've totally forgotten it, as per usual. Well, terrific. I have forgotten the thing that I was going to try and show you. So classic me, eh? So yeah, no, that's what I was going to do. I was going to show you the whole squad, so we can have a look at, see, just in general, who's actually performed. I want to just see things like this. The best overall. So of the players that actually play for us the most, Christensen has the best. When he's in the team, we can see the least goals. And of the players that play a lot down here, Ivanov's probably the worst. Closing on that, although Tim Stas is probably up there too with the sheer amount of minutes he's played, I suppose. And again, Nezev, you can sort of see the bad performers in that kind of realm. When you look at the goals scored as well, Geraldo, easily one of the best players for us for having in the team with an attacking side of things. But on the other side of things, you could see who's really underperforming. Again, Tim Stas. So that to me is a big sign that Tim Stas is not a player we really want in this team very often, to be honest. What about points per game, which is kind of important? And again, Petrovic is up there. And again, once again, Davor up there. But anyone that's really surprisingly low, Carlos Rodriguez, although again, he would almost exclusively be in rotated sides. Nezev again down there, Ivanov. Stas is... Where even is Tim Stas? Surprisingly high, Tim Stas. He sort of gets carried through games. We just seem to win them 5-4, apparently. I don't know how that works, but nevertheless, that's the case, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. So, exciting nevertheless. I think my main... I've shown you the two guys that I'm looking at as potential targets just to give us that little bit extra depth. And yeah, we don't need to be signing loads of players this summer. I'm so happy with the squad the way it is, and I honestly wouldn't want to because I don't want to imbalance it too much. But Ezra Koch, Ramon maybe. I don't think it's super necessary, but Ezra Koch might be the key. And if we can find an amazing inverted right wing, but I just don't think we've got enough money for that. However, if a player was to leave, someone like a Pombo, there's been rumours, again, I've seen the news articles of bids potentially of up to like 70 million for someone like Pombo. If I could ship him off, even for like 50 million, we could parlay that money into really making this team a lot better because he doesn't play for us. And I think if we can scrum up a little bit of extra cash, might be able to get all three of the targets I want this summer. But we'll have to see. So, the word of the day is going to be, what's this? This is a lip balm I've got on my desk, but there's nothing written on it. That won't do. We need to have things written on it. I tell you what, Actimel. I've got an Actimel that I drank earlier on my desk. So the word of the day is Actimel. Jump that in a sentence if you can. Yeah, so I will join you guys probably later today now for the transfer window. Don't expect a huge amount of signings, that's for sure. But hopefully I can just laser focus myself in on a couple of absolute gems and we'll see where to go from there. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, drop a like, that'd be awesome. Stream on Twitch, go follow that. You know the drill by now. Imagine if you're watching this video, you probably already follow over on Twitch. So, let's leave that there. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys very soon. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.